I've had Catholic nuns from the convent right down the street pass me in front of my store, and instead of passing directly in front of my store, they'll cross the street and do this. I've seen grown women, grown-ass women, nuns, walking like this. I was born in New Orleans East. I went to school at Brother Martin. I was going to study to be a seminarian. Like, in Voodoo, we still keep Sunday as God's day. We still consider Voodoo as monotheistic. All the spirits that we serve are akin to the saints, is that we pray to them to intercede on our behalf to a greater God. Many Catholics are still very spooked by Voodoo and the practice. They don't understand it, But I've had a few wonderful conversations with some Catholic priests. And one of the things that I've gleaned from these religious discussions is that there's not too much of a difference. The morals are the same. The feeling and the working and the way that we serve the spirit is not dissimilar, Even though the fact that Voodoo is so motivated and inspired by early French Catholicism from 150 to 200 years ago, that it's ingrained. You can't separate the two unless you're going back to the original roots in African Voodoo, and then of course that's a little different story. There's a line in a book that was not included in the modern Bible, the Gospel of St. Thomas, and it says, look under a rock, there you will find me. It's essentially saying you don't need to go to a church to find the divinity. And that is very, very, very in tune with a lot of shamanistic practices, is that the communication with our ancestors and the communication with rocks and trees and the spirits of the wolves and the spirits of the bears, etc., etc. And so at its core, Voodoo is a shaman religion, right? That identifies with spiritual workings, not so much magic and witchcraft, but doing spiritual work with your spirits or your ancestors or your guardian or God or whatever. New Orleans Voodoo evolved. You have this amalgamation of spirituality that was passed down from generation to generation, Africans and Indians, natives, and the French or the Spanish or the English or the Dutch, whatever.
You're learning first and foremost about Voodoo's contribution to New Orleans culture and heritage, because that's very important to me, that people understand just what a key role that has played, and it gets swept under we're always like French, Spanish, while sweeping the African, the Voodoo. It's not the first thing that comes up when people think New Orleans. Catholicism in a girl that went to Catholic school dies hard. I love my Catholic saints, and because they have been syncretized with the Voodoo Orisha and the Loa, I can't really separate them anymore. I ended up on a path that I didn't expect, being formally initiated into Haitian Voodoo. And so I'm a Mambo. All of it works together for me. It is me and my spirit and God that I'm accountable to for my actions, how I practice, how I listen to spirit, how I serve and help my community. Start with that ancestral altar. Connect with your own ancestors. Whatever it is, it's your history, it's your traditions, and honor that which you came from before trying to get all up in everybody else's stuff. Because if you do belong in everyone else's stuff, it's a great way to find out.
A lot of people get up in arms about white people practicing voodoo. A lot of people get up in arms about Asians practicing voodoo. I'm like, I can't imagine Asian people having necessarily a connection to African spirits, but hey, if the connection is there, then who the hell am I? So a lot of the misconceptions are usually around serving the dead or raising the dead. I mean, people are infatuated with the dead. It's usually about, do you have a doll I can, and they always make the same like jabby motion. Do you have a doll that I can stick pins in? And so a lot of the misconceptions that we have about voodoo are people trying to do something on the sly and not wanting to own responsibility for their own actions. When we get those questions that ask about harming children or innocence or animals or we tend to take those things personally, because people will come to say, well, I want to do something absolutely horrifying, but instead of having to claim responsibility for my own actions, I'm going to go ask a voodoo priest and see if they'll do this for me. And I've had to tell many people on a number of occasions, you need to find Jesus.